Last year, I took the Avatar Studios Which Bender Are You quiz. So, if you're a fan of Avatar The Last Airbender, I think you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't know, Avatar The Last Airbender, they're the four nations with the four elements that have the benders, people who can use martial arts to manipulate the elements: earth, fire, air, water. That's the cycle, and those are the four you can get. I got air for mine every single time I took it, even when I changed up some of the answers because one of my friends got earth and the other got fire, and one of them pointed out that yes, you can kind of guess where the answers are going with it, but answering truthfully, I got air, and truthfully, I can kind of understand why, not just because eh, as I have a shaved head like the air nomads do. So first off, there's that. I kind of look like I embraced the way of the air nomads to an extent. Now, I eat meat like they do, but I mean, unlike them, that's really one of the ways that I deviate from that. The way I see the way I see it, if the Dalai Lama, because Buddhism is what the air nomads are based on, can eat meat as long as it wasn't killed specifically for him, I don't see a problem. I would probably disagree with organized air nomadism if that really makes sense because nomads really wouldn't fall under an organizational hierarchy. Meat's a good source of protein. I'm going to leave it at that. Anyway, more about how I fit into it. I find that I'm actually really evasive when it comes to how I handle things. I try to evade conflict where possible, and in my kickboxing training in Apple Fitness Plus, I visualize myself being evasive with my thing, or I emphasize my focus on dodges because Massachusetts is a duty to retreat state, and that's where I live. So some states are like that, others are stand your ground with castle doctrine. I live in a duty to retreat one where if you're in danger, you have a duty to retreat before you resort to more traditional self defense, is how I'm going to phrase it. So I'm basically, so for now I'm optimizing my mindset for finding ways to retreat and creative ways too, so that I'm prepared in the moment. Hopefully, it never comes down to that, but I digress. What really got me realizing just how accurate that quiz was is I'm rewatching Avatar The Last Airbender right now. I binged through season 2 last weekend, and when Aang was learning earthbending, he struggled with it because it's the opposite of his native air element, and when he tried thinking of another way to approach the problem that he was having, Toph got in his face and was like, "There's no other way to do it. There's no new angle to look at it from." And I'm yeah, I'm pretty resourceful like Aang too. I mentioned this before, and I'm going to say it again. My grandmother once said that I'm very resourceful, and I find that very true because I find ways to make do with what I have. I tend to get creative or come at something from a different angle. I just have a hard time putting it into practice in other areas because I don't know what kind of rules I might accidentally break or anything like that. It's a whole thing. It's probably why I'm having a hard time finding self employment or really taking up a side hustle that makes money. But yeah, between in being relatively creative and finding different ways to look at things the same way Aang tried with earth bending initially before he realized he had to follow the neutral Jing. I think that's the word for it that Boomy used. I wholeheartedly agree with that quiz's assessment that I fall under the airbender. That would be an airbender. And again, not just because I happen to kind of look like I embraced the way of the air nomad with shaving my head and the slight beard. It's about how resourceful I am, according to my grandmother, and creative solutions like buying the deli containers I mentioned in my previous video about managing my food inventory, so I can use those as the serving sizes. So I can just grab one of those and have something ready to go after I redistribute the larger bags' contents into them. Same thing with plastic bags, like I'm using for the cookies I'm making for myself to follow up on dinner, because those are cheaper than the ice cream I usually buy. And while it's starting to get warmer out now, it's still a bit cool out for ice cream. And you know what? I think I'd rather make 5 or 6 cookies out of ingredients that, in the long run, cost me a fraction of what ice cream costs. Again, my only real dissent with the Air Nomad way is that I'm willing to eat meat because I recognize it's a good source of protein. I'm sure there are alternatives out there that vegetarians use that I can respect. So on that note, I'm going to leave it here for the video. Comment down below if you took that quiz and which element you got or what element you feel you'd get. Personally, I like that I got air, not just because Aang himself is an airbender. I would have been pretty happy with getting firebender because Well, that one's pretty cool on account of the fact that you don't need to have it around you unless it's the M. Night Shyamalan movie, and then he just broke his own rules with Eero, which is what I'm calling him because that is not Iroh, was able to produce fire on his own. He was the only firebender who could do that in that movie. Spoiler alert for a 15-year-old movie that I would advise you never to watch under any circumstances, especially if you're a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's one of those movies where you feel like you'll feel like you died and went to movie hell. Negative 1 out of 10. Would not recommend. The source material, though, I'd say is probably going to end up being an 8.5 out of 10 by the time I finish my rewatch. Anyway, give this video a like, subscribe for daily videos, and I will see you soon.